Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another enlightening episode of the Al-Muminat Podcast. This is a space where we as believers come together to reflect on the wisdom of the Quran, share insight, and strengthen our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether you're joining us for the first time or a regular listener, I pray that this session enriches your heart, mind, and soul. Today we will begin with Surat Al-Baqarah, ayahs 149 and 150, and our speaker for this session is Sister Hanan Mansour. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us understanding and allow all these reflections to guide us towards bettering ourselves and our communities. Let us start with the remembrance of Allah and delve into His words. Jazkallahkheir for joining in, and let's begin.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Inshallah, let's start with the Quran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from all of you. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to benefit you from the knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us this benefit. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is proud of on Day of Judgment. Inshallah Rabbil Alameen. So let's start inshallah. Ayah 149. We're going to read it. And Ayah 150. And inshallah we're going to hear the translation and we're going to start from there. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن حيث خرجت فول وجهك شطر المسجد الحرام وإنه للحق من ربك وما الله بغافل عما تعملون ومن حيث خرجت فول وجهك شطر المسجد الحرام وحيث ما كنتم فولوا وجوهكم شطره لئلا يكون للناس عليكم حجة إلا الذين ظلموا منهم فلا تخشوهم واخشوني وليتم نعمتي عليكم ولعلكم تهتدون. صدق الله العظيم.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. From wherever you set out, turn your face in the direction of the sacred mosque. That indeed is the truth from your Lord, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not unaware of what you do. And from wherever you set out, turn your face in the direction of the sacred mosque, and, O Muslims, wherever you are, turn your faces in its direction so that people should have no argument against you, except for those among them who are unjust. Do not fear them, but fear me, and so that I should perfect my blessings upon you, and that you may take the right path.
Jazkallahkheir. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah نحمده ونستعين ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة وأزكى السلام. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. رب افتح لنا فتوح العارفين. اللهم يا رب العالمين اجعل هذا الأمر خالصا لوجهك الكريم. انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن يا مولانا إن شئت سهلا. طيب أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. The first ayah or the ayah 149 and 150, we are still talking about the direction and the changing of the Qibla. And you can see the repetition. I mean, Sister Shahd and before Sister Shahd, I mean, from the ayah 144, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until now, the ayah 150, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is continuing to talk about the Qibla and the changing of direction of the prayer. And we have to wonder why is the importance of that, the amount of repetition. It has been repeated so much since the beginning, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us this kind of insight in the Prophet's heart when he was looking around searching for something. قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ. We can see that you're looking to the sky, you're looking to us, wanted something, wanted a change, wanted to be a different distinction, have a distinct or distinction from others. You wanted something, but you didn't know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you. And from that insight that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was giving us, as if we can see the hearts of the Prophet ﷺ, as if we can hear his thoughts and his whisper to his Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, until today, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, until these kind of verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the Kaaba and about the changing of the Qibla. This changing of the Qibla, it is in the second juz of Surat Al-Baqarah. And this is something very important. Why? Because you can see that when we talk about this, the second juz of Surat Al-Baqarah started with the first legislation, which is the changing of direction, the changing of Qibla, the changing of direction for prayers. And this was revealed to the Sahaba and to the Ummah in general after they moved to Medina. So we mentioned before that the difference between the Mecca period and between the Medina period. The Mecca period focused on what? It focused on building and cultivating the inner strength of the believers. It focused on the individual level. Work on yourself. Build your own resilience. Build your faith and yaqeen. So that's why you see this part of Mecca, the Prophet and the Sahaba were given what? Were given the stories of the past prophets, the struggles of the previous believers, the day of judgment, who is their Lord, his names and attributes, and how to connect with him in order for them to start to find comfort and to build this kind of resilience. And they were being reminded all the time of being patient. But now, once the Muslims settled in Medina, the focus now is not on the individual. The focus now is on the whole Ummah. The Ummah now is addressed as a nation. Rules and legislations has to be set, subhanAllah, in order to organize this nation. And we see that the beginning of this juz of Baqarah started with that first most important legislations, because if they really succeed to do that, and really this was established, then subhanAllah, all the other legislations will follow, which is, you see that the second part of the Baqarah talks about fasting and Hajj and rulings for marriage and divorce and business. But before all of that, the direction has to be set. Before all of that, the Qibla has to be reinstated. To whom? To Ibrahim alayhi salam and his legacy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that kind of legislation symbolized for us what? Symbolized for the believers and for this ummah, the independence and maturity of the Muslim ummah as a distinct nation, only guided by whom? Not by culture, not by people's opinion, not by social trends, but only by divine commands. And that's why we're gonna talk about and show that this kind of commandment, the commandment only of changing the Qibla, and the repetition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about it, khalas, was not only about geography, but it represented a spiritual direction too. It represented a national identity, Muslim identity, which we're going to talk about, inshallah, in this session, and divine faith, test of faith. How can we, as a Muslim, how can we, when we turn to the Qibla, we don't turn to a place, but we turn our body and heart and mind toward this Allah's commands, even if others disapprove of us, even if we don't understand the wisdom behind it at all. So you see, in the beginning, Allah in Ayah 149, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, وَمِنْ حَيْثُ خَرَجْتَ فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ وَإِنَّهُ لَلْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكَ وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا يَعْمَلُونَ. And from wherever you go, who? The Prophet ﷺ. Now he is talking to whom? To the Prophet ﷺ directly. From wherever you go out for prayer, turn your face toward Al-Masjid Al-Haram. And indeed, it is the truth from your Lord, and Allah is not aware of what you do. Imam al-Tabari, in his Tafseer, he said that this verse reaffirmed the previous command of verse 144, the one we talked about. To the Prophet ﷺ, wherever he travels, wherever he leads prayer, he should still face the Kaaba. And Imam al-Tabari, he said that the purpose of repetition is to emphasize the obligation of that, to ensure that there is no ambiguity about it. There is no hidden agenda about it. There is no hidden desires about it. Khalas, it is 100% an obligation, a commandment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Ibn Kathir, in his tafsir, he said that he highlighted the direction of the Kaaba. It was the original Qibla of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. And the Jews were aware of that. خلاص? And this change, like Imam Ibn Kathir say, it was a restoration. It was not a new invention. The Jews, they knew that the Al-Bayt al-Haram was what the Prophet ﷺ and Sayyidina Ismail established as the house of God subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it was this the change to go back to the Kaaba and to go back to the direction. It was not something new. It was not a new invention. And he mentioned, like Imam al-Tabari, that the repetition in the commandment emphasized that this is an obligation. It was not just something that some will do, some won't. And this is why it was very important to emphasize that. Imam al-Qurtubi, he mentioned something very beautiful. He focused on the linguistic precision of the verse. When he mentioned Shatr al-Masjid al-Haram. What's Shatr al-Masjid al-Haram? Toward the Masjid al-Haram. And when he said that, does it mean that I have to see the Kaaba in order for me to look toward it? So scholars, he mentioned the opinion of scholars around this subject, and he said those in Mecca must face the building itself. So if you are in a place where you can see the Haram, when you can see the Kaaba, you have to face it. And that's why you see the prayer are circular around around the Bayt al-Haram. When you see, subhanallah, people are around the Kaaba as a circle. Why? Because they have to face the Kaaba as long as they can see it. But if you are outside the Kaaba or you cannot see the Kaaba, then you are Shatr al-Masjid al-Haram. يعني to go toward the direction of the Masjid al-Haram. And that's why you see that some people will go to northeast, some people will go to southeast, some people will find the Qibla according to the direction. And this is out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you're going to see that this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established that this direction is universal. It will last until Day of Judgment. And this is why, subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, and وَإِنَّهُ لَلْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكَ, that this Qibla is not based on desire, it's not based on political motives, but it's based on divine command. He is the Haqq. And al-Haqq mean that it is the ultimate source of truth and guidance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of his name is al-Haqq. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِنَّهُ لَلْحَقِّ, mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by his name al-Haqq, he is the only source of truth. He is the only source of guidance. And this is an important principle that we have to pay attention to, that verse 149 highlight. It is the significance of the Quran as a guide book for Muslims. See, that we have to understand that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in this book is the truth. And whatever he say of legislations, of commandments, of prohibition, believers has to understand that whatever comes in this book is rooted in wisdom, is rooted in knowledge, in justice of whom? Of al-Haqq himself, subhanallah. And that is a mentality that a true believer has to build, has to cultivate. And this is what the Sahaba during the Mecca period were focused on. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, and Allah is not aware of what you're doing. Allah is not aware of what you're doing. That there will be many people who will use that change as a criticism. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that. Ibn Kathir also, he mentioned that the enemies, especially the Jews and the Munafiqeen, they used the earlier Qibla, which is Bayt al-Maqdis, to argue that Muslims were following them. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directed the Sahaba and directed the Prophet ﷺ to move the direction from Bayt al-Kaaba to Al-Masjid, Jerusalem, subhanallah, I'm sure all of us, we know the wisdom behind that. But how they perceive it, the Jews, how they perceive it, the Munafiqeen, how they perceive it as, look at them. look at us. They are following our direction. They are following us because we are the chosen people. So when it was changed, they claimed that the Muslim has abandoned the truth. And Allah say, Allah is aware of that. Allah is not unaware of what they're going to do, of what they're going to say. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say what? That don't fear. Don't be subjugated to this kind of criticism. Build resilience against the criticism. Don't fear them and fear me. No one will be able to take that change to criticize except إِلَّا الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْهُمْ. Only those who are stubborn, only those who are the wrongdoers, they will not accept the truth. And one thing that one of the scholars mentioned that is so beautiful, he said, when we say, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not unaware of what you do, we only take it to the negative side. Yani, he mentioned, a scholar once mentioned that there was, mashallah, a alim, he sat for fatwa. So he was asked a question about the punishment of the grave. He said, we want to ask you about the punishment of the grave, about the punishment. So the scholar, he said, why everybody talks only about the punishment of the grave? Why I'm not asked about the bliss of the grave? Why we only talk about the punishment? And the same thing is here. Allah is not unaware of what you do. It's not only He's talking about the munafiqeen, about the mushrikeen, about all those kind of people, rumors, about the doubt that is spread, about even among the Muslims who will talk about later on how they don't want to really face this kind of criticism. When you talk about the social aspect here, this was just a new community. There were many young Muslims there starting to build their life in a society, want to be accepted, want to be part and fit in the society. And they don't want to be, how can I say, I don't want to be different. How many of us we hear that from young men and young women, even from adults, from Muslim in general, young and old. They say, and who, when you tell them Islam wants you to be distinguished, you say, oh, I don't want to be distinguished. Islam, I don't want to be noticed. يعني, I don't want to wear the hijab. Why? I don't want to be noticed. I want to be part of this community. I want to fit in. So this kind of need of fitting in, of belonging in a community, or not wanting to face criticism, bullying, all of that makes what? Makes you submit to whatever pressure there is in. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He gives a commandment, when He gives a legislation, He knows. He's telling you, I know that this will not be going to be easy for you. I know that you're going to face a lot of criticism. I know the inner struggle. And we're going to talk about the inner struggle now of even building an Islamic identity. But He said also, Allah is not unaware of the good that you do. He's not unaware for those who struggle to do right. And Allah will reward accordingly to that. So, like we said here, the Qibla, and when we're going to talk about the Qibla, how it's not about geography here. It's not about location. But it's about the body, and it's about the mind, and it's about the heart. When we stand, and how many times we talk about the khushu' in salah. When we stand and we face the Qibla, and we are making sure is the Qibla right or wrong, we have to understand, how about my moral compass too? Am I making sure that my actions are right according to the Qibla? Is this, my heart is toward that too? Like my body? Is my mind toward that too? Like my body? And this is what is very, very important. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does He say? Don't worry about approval of people. Don't worry about people be pleased with you. But worry about me. Worry about me being pleased with you. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said something, one hadith very beautiful. He said, من أرضى الله بسخط الناس رضي عنه الله وأرضى عليه الناس ومن أسخط الله برضا الناس سخط عليه الله وأسخط عليه الناس. Hadith extremely powerful, short yet very true. He said, من أرضى الله بسخط الناس. Whoever pleased Allah, يعني regardless of the unpleasant or the being disapprove of people. And people will be whether these people would be your parents, siblings, friends, community. I don't care if you are pleased with me or not. I have to please God. Whoever please God, regardless of everything around him, Allah will be pleased with him. But not only will be pleased with him, eventually you will see these people are pleased with you. Eventually you will see these people admire your strength. Eventually you will see these people later on. Allah will guide them because you are guided and because of what you did. Vice versa, or the opposite, whoever wants to please people. We said that the subhanallah, pleasing people is a goal that is unreachable. To please everyone is impossible. So the Prophet said, watch out. Whoever you will disobey Allah for, what's going to happen? Eventually that person will be disapproved with you, disapproved of your action. He will exhaust you. And this is all of us, we tried once in a while. We did try this kind of, this hadith. It become true in any aspect of our life. Try to please someone, try to compromise for the sake of someone, and you'll see at the end what? Your compromise went in vain. At the end, you gain nothing. Try to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you'll see everything settled around you from inside out. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the next verse, what he explained more. He said, وَمِنْ حَيْثُ خَرَجْتُمْ فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ وَحَيْثُمَا كُنْتُمْ. Now, so in the first verse, Allah was talking directly to the Prophet. But now he's talking to whom? To all believers. Wherever you are, direct yourself toward what? Face toward what? Toward the Al-Masjid Al-Haram. And some speaker, they say that some of the tafsir, the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the Prophet and mentioned all of them, all the rest, because there was a question here asked. Is it only for the Prophet ﷺ or for all of us? Is it only in Medina? Or wherever I go, I have to change my direction. I have to face subhanallah, al-Kaaba. So this verse instructs all Muslims to face al-Kaaba, in Mecca during their prayer, regardless of their geographic location. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said what? لِأَلَّا يَكُونَ لِلنَّاسِ عَلَيْكُمْ حُجَّةٌ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْهُمْ فَلَا تَخْشَوْهُمْ وَاخْشَوْنِي وَلِيُتِمَّ نِعْمَتِي عَلَيْكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ. So in general, Tafsir Sa'di, he mentioned that this verse encourages Muslims in everywhere to stand firm. Don't seek approval from critics. And here the instruction to face the Kaaba unites the whole ummah in rituals, strengthen identity, and complete Allah's ni'mah. And watch Allah's ni'mah here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that the perfect ni'mah here is that how Allah perfected this deen and how Allah chose whom they will be inside this deen. Subhanallah. Who will be the followers of this deen. So this is the perfection of deen. That this deen, it missed nothing. Nothing is missing. Every aspect of our life, there will be direction. That you will see direction in this. Why? Again, وَإِنَّهُ لَلْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكَ. Why? Because it comes from the truth. It comes from the truthful one, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we are confused in this world, when we are confused between what's right and what's wrong, when we are confused between this miserable sentence, you are right and I am right, and the truth is, wishy-washy. The truth for you is different than the truth for me. Then where is the truth? I mean, Candace Omen, when she's talking about the truth, she mentioned, even though she's a Christian and everything, and she is very much a believer Christian, she said, I cannot accept that your truth is right and my truth is. There has to be an absolute truth, because otherwise we won't be anchored. And this is, subhanallah, imagine you have a book in your hand that comes from who called himself the truth, the absolute truth. So, and this is the ni'mah. خلاص. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's talking about fear in the verse. Don't fear them. So here you can see the connection to this inner struggle that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is bringing us in. In a way, Allah wants us to feel this kind of compassion and understanding for this fear that is normal and natural to come into the heart of believers. He said, don't fear them. So they are believers who are fearful. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's normal. But how should Muslims respond when their faith is mocked and criticized, when they fear that kind of fear that comes inside, crawling inside their heart, when they need to once show their Islamic identity and they hid that, or they feel like they will be in danger if they show that. What is Islamic identity? It's something that we talked about. It's something that we need to understand. The scholars, when they talk about Islamic identity, it's not just a label. So when I say I am a Muslim, it's not about Allah wants you to be labeled yourself as Muslim. But Islamic identity here is a spiritual, more of a spiritual maturity, that to form an identity rooted in divine guidance, not just mimicry. I'm not a follower here. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose for this community, after being accepted by the Jews, after being maybe praised that you are coming here and all of us together and all of us one, and my God is your God is one, and all these kind of wording that makes it easy for you to belong in a society, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you what? Turn your face, turn your back, and give this direction to here, to the other side. Khalas. And this direction is rooted in what? Like I said, it's not rooted in a divine, it's not rooted in a desire, hidden desire of the Prophet ﷺ, even though he is the most beloved and he was the most beloved man to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet Allah mentioned that it's not because of your Prophet that I'm doing that. It's not because he wanted that, no. And it's not because of political statement here, but it's because it is a divine guidance and we are not followers as Muslim. So Islamic identity mean what? Mean that I belong to an ummah represented by whom? By Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this ummah lives by values, by teaching of Islam in thoughts, in behaviors, in choices. I represent a deen in both private and in public. And this is something we need to learn. To have God conscious, to have this level of ihsan. I am by myself. I'm not going to do something even by myself. And I'm going to tell you something that is really crazy. That you see people that how now people are, whether you do something privately and you think no one is seeing you, and now you see that suddenly you can see your pictures on Facebook. Suddenly you can see that you sent a movie or you sent, subhanAllah, something that you were not meant to be sent. And it shows you doing something that you hate for people to see you doing, or dressing in a way that you don't like people to see you dressing. And you say, subhanAllah, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us to be have this kind of ihsan. Wherever I'm by myself and closing the doors and closing the windows, I'm still watched. But we are not watched by the TV and the smartphones, and no, we are watched by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in public, whether through worship, dress, ethics, speech, priorities, all of that, I am here to represent this ummah, to represent this deen. It's very important to cultivate this Islamic identity. Why it's important to cultivate this Islamic identity, whether to our children, whether to ourselves even. And it is something, it's never ending. It's never ending progress, because it defines our path, it defines our purpose. Subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surat Al-Imran, what did he say? Inna deena indallahi al-Islam. Indeed, the religion with Allah is Islam. So Islam means what? Means submission. I need to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through what? Through seeking His guidance, through seeking His pleasure. I'm not here to seek the validation of human being. So I need to trust Allah's command. I need to trust that. I need to grasp that. And subhanAllah, when this direction came, when this order and commandment came, we all know from the previous speakers and from the previous explanation of the verses how this incident of changing the Qibla happened during Dhuhr or Asr time in the Masjid of Al-Qiblatayn. And the Sahaba were praying and they were in the middle of prayer when a Sahabi came in the middle in the Masjid while they were praying, and he mentioned with loud voice, the Qibla has been changed to Bayt al-Haram. So Kaaba. So everyone changed direction in the middle of the Salah. They did not even wait until they are done with the Salah. The leader changes Qibla and all the followers, all the Musallin, they changed their Qibla with them. And you see, and how the perfect example came, those Sahaba. And even though there was Sahaba, even though there was young Muslim that we mentioned before, they felt something about changing the Qibla. They didn't want to change the Qibla. They were skeptical about it. How they going to face the community? They had friends from others that don't face the same Qibla, and they don't want to do that. So when we mention that it's very important to cultivate the Islamic identity because it defined my path. It defined my purpose. Why I'm doing what I'm doing. Remember that conversation that I mentioned before between this young girl who hated to wear the scarf and this older woman in front of her, and both of them, they were carrying this conversation, and this young girl wanted to take the scarf and she said, I hated it. I wear it because I was forced to wear it, and at least you, Khala, you chose to wear it. Remember this conversation I mentioned before? And this young girl, and this, subhanAllah, this lady, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fatah alayha, and she told her, who said that I chose it? I didn't choose it. She said, what do you mean? You said that you were happy and mashallah, you're going around and you're promoting the hijab and you're going around and you talk about the beautiful religion. I cannot promote something I was forced to put it. And this woman insisted and she said, but I did not choose it. She said, then why? You put it then. She said, because God told me to do so. When Allah says something, I have no choice. I have to put it. Why? Because this is my path. He is my purpose. I am here to be validated. I'm here to please Him, and I'm here to promote this Islamic identity. The second reason why we should cultivate this Islamic identity, because it's a means of guidance. It's a means of stability. It gives me direction. So when I have my purpose, when I know why I'm here for, then I am able to take the direction. Sean Covey mentioned in the Seven Habits, this book, Seven Habits of Success. He mentioned the scene in this chapter, begin with the end in mind. He mentioned the scene from Alice in Wonderland, having a conversation with a cat. And she said, she asked the cat, she said, would you tell me please which way I ought to walk from here? Where should I go? So the cat answered her, that depends a great deal on where you wanted to get to. So Alice, she mentioned, I don't much care where. So the cat, she told her something. Subhanallah, she told her, then it doesn't matter which way to go. If you don't have a direction, it doesn't matter which way to go. So if I don't have this identity, and this identity give me direction, then what? Then I will be sucked into the social pressure. I will be sucked in this society pulling me in different directions. You wear today Chanel all the way to subhanallah to your heel. Tomorrow you're wearing mini jib. You're wearing a tight jeans. Tomorrow you wear baggy jeans. Subhanallah, the way I look, the way I talk, the language I'm talking with, A couple of days ago, I was talking to my kids, and he was doing this channel, and he was doing these kind of videos, and I'm telling him, but these videos has a lot of words, like cursing words, stupid words. And he said, but this is the way everybody talks. Imagine the disaster that we are in. And you have to redirect his. If I don't have this base, how can I redirect him? If I don't have this identity in the begin with, I'm telling him, you are Muslim. We cannot go and talk, say the F word and the B word. Between each word, I have to swear. So, but if you don't have the direction, then well, whatever it is, society will pull you in every direction. And this is, wallahi, is extremely exhausting. Wallahi, you lose who you are. You lose who you are. The third thing about why it's important to build this Islamic direction, because it preserves the faith across generations. If you lose your direction, if you lose your Islamic identity, how about your children? How about your grandchildren? If I'm not paying attention what I'm doing, the Prophet ﷺ said Islam begins so strange and it will return to being strange. So give glad tidings to the strangers. Who are the strangers, Ya Rasulullah? The strangers are the one who's going to carry the baton in every generation. The one who carries the light for people to follow them through or during the darkness. These are the generation. Also, it's very important to stick with our Islamic and cultivate our Islamic identity, because it's a source of honor. It's a source of dignity. Islam grants dignity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, and honor belongs to Allah, His Messenger, and the believers. When we take pride in our Islamic identity, we free ourselves from needing validation from others, like we said. And this is something that gives you this level of dignity. And I'm not gonna have time here to talk about how many women I talk to that suffer because of losing dignity, because losing themselves, because this is what everybody does. La ilaha illallah. So the shift from Al-Bayt al-Maqdis to the Kaaba was a symbolic statement. We are distinguished. We are a distinguished nation. We have our own qibla. We have our own message. We have our own path. And this is how the Prophet ﷺ cultivate this kind of Islamic identity, encouraging distinction from other religions. The Prophet ﷺ said, be different from the Jews and the Christian in Sahih Muslim. Whether in appearance, in your way you dress, whether in fasting, like fasting Ashura, whether prayer. He taught the Ummah to retain this kind of distinguished identity rooted in revelation. What is the weird and the danger of a weak Islamic identity, sisters? First of all, confusion, assimilation. Without strong identity, young Muslims they often dilute or hide their deen. And this is very bad. For what reason? To fit in. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, well, if you feel like that, then fear me. Don't fear others, fear me. What does it mean, fear me? That remember that one day you're going to come to me. Remember that you're going to come for judgment and you're going to be questioned. Remember the day of judgment. Remember. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khalas. The second thing, the danger of weak Islamic identity, the spiritual weaknesses. The loss of identity can lead to you lose your values. You lose your connection with Allah. What happened when I lose my connection with Allah? I always feel like my heart is harsh. I don't have my spirit is not high, is not up. I feel like there's something missing all the time in my life. I'm not grateful. I'm not pleased with things that surround me. I want to imitate everyone. I'm comparing myself to everybody. What an exhausting lifestyle. This is something very, very important. And we said the last thing is what? The last thing is La ilaha illallah, is losing. The last thing is losing this deen and making it hard. Ihna as a generation, me and you and all of us as a generation, alhamdulillah, we had people who taught us about Islam. We have scholars that I can ask. We have, mashallah, classes right and left. And I'm not making this effort. Then what? I am here not making it easier for the next generation. You are not making it easier for the people after you. Remember that story of Ka'b ibn Malik. And maybe I don't have time for all, but the story of Ka'b ibn Malik, how important. Remember Ka'b ibn Malik, the one who in Ghazwat Tabuk did not go with the Prophet ﷺ, and he kept on postponing going to the battle with the Prophet ﷺ. And when the Prophet ﷺ came and he went to the masjid, everyone that did not follow him to go to the battle, he had to come and give excuses. What Ka'b ibn Malik did, he said, Ya Rasulullah, I am the most eloquent Sahabi you can imagine. I can tell you hundreds of excuses, but I know that God will tell you the truth about me. And God will send His wrath upon me and make you hate me. But if I tell the truth, Ya Rasulullah, I'm pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hopefully you're going to be pleased with me. And he told him, I had nothing that prevented me from following you, and I admit my mistakes. What the Prophet said? He said he told the truth. So he said, stay, Ya Ka'b, on the side until we see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do for you. When he left the masjid, who met Ka'b ibn Malik? His family. They told him, what did you do? Why didn't you just mention an excuse? Any excuses? Mention it. And Allah is forgiven. And Allah will forgive you. So Ka'b ibn Malik was about to go back to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said to himself, he's the one who's telling the story. He said, I was about to go back to give an excuse and to lie until I asked the question. He said, was anyone else lied? Was anyone else told the truth? They say only 3 stupid people. Only 2 more stupid people told the truth. The rest, they gave excuses. So he mentioned, who are they? So they mentioned to him his name. He said, Wallahi, because of them, because I found 2 people out of hundreds who gave excuses, I decided to keep my truth. So imagine that. Imagine, because 2 people stood their ground and told the truth, as if they gave him permission to tell the truth too. They made it easier on him to tell the truth. So imagine if every one of us will hide, every one of us will compromise. Imagine the generation that will come after you. And I wish that will end there. I wish that we were not going to be brought to justice. We're not going to be brought in front of God subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask us, I gave you knowledge. Why didn't you make it easier for the following generation? Why didn't you hold your torch? I chose you to be among the Muslims. I chose you to be among the best of nations. Why did you let it go? This is something we have to listen and we have to understand. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ عَمَّا يَعْمَلُ. Allah is not unaware. No, Allah is aware. Allah is aware of inner struggle. Allah is aware of your effort. Allah is aware of what you do. Whether you lose and you lost the torch, or you lose the torch, you lose your knowledge, or whether you stand your ground and hold that torch for others to follow you. And this is something extremely important. And that's why there is a practical way to build our Islamic identity. Now, at least it's easier for us than others. When we learn about the seerah, this is the way to build Islamic identity. When we, subhanallah, practicing visible sign, when you wear your hijab, when you, subhanallah, don't hide that you're fasting for Ramadan. When it comes for prayer, get up and pray. Make this kind of visible sign. It will encourage you to build this Islamic identity. Choose friends from among Muslims. Choose mentor from among Muslims. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned, وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. Be patient with those who call upon Allah day and night because they want to be pleased with them. Be patient with them. They are lame. They remind you of things that you do wrong. They don't want you to have fun. Be patient with that. Why? Because they will lead you to where? They will lead you to the end in mind. which is the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is safety on Day of Judgment, which heaven that all of us we urge for. Subhanallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that be patient with those people who will keep you on that straight path. People went to Umar radiallahu anhu, Umar ibn Khattab, and they say, Ya Imam, Ya Khalifa, we sit with people that make us fear Allah, fear Day of Judgment. We make us fear all the time. They talk about God, they talk about the Day of Judgment, they make us fear, Ya Umar. So Umar, what did he answer them? He said, لأن, for you to stay with people that make you fear God and plan for that day when no one will benefit you except your deeds. It's better than to sit with people that will have fun of you, fun with you, and have fun about you too. And then on Day of Judgment, you come what? You come insecure and you come upset. And two other things: use Islamic greeting. The minimum we can do is when we meet Muslim, we don't say hi, bye, hello, whatever. Assalamu alaikum. Simple gestures. We can do it to do what? To build our Islamic identity. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of your history. Be proud of your Prophet. Be really proud. And that's why changing the Qibla was not about location. It has amazing, very profound symbolic significance. It unites the Muslim to one direction, to one path, to one purpose. And those who are outside that, they are lost and confused. And this is something extremely important to understand. The bond of sisterhood, the bond of brotherhood. And subhanAllah, this is very, very, very important. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always make us of those who hold tight on our faith, hold tight to our religion. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us face Qibla, body, heart, mind, and soul. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم ربنا وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
MashaAllah. That was beautiful, Hanan. It's a good
May Allah reward you. We have 8
way.
minutes for any questions or for any comments. Allah Jazkallahkheir, Edith. If there is any questions, we have alhamdulillah like 8 minutes.
There's no questions, but it's a good reminder. I have a comment about it's a good reminder of that's a good reminder to tell parents to make sure you look up to the Prophet Muhammad SAW, because now in society, how we have the men, they are not like the men of the Prophet Muhammad SALL's time, and obviously I don't think we'll ever find that, but at least we can raise our young youth into being looking at the Prophet Muhammad SALLM as a role model, and that's a good reminder. Do you have anything, Suhair, before we end it? Suhair?
No, it was just a beneficial seminar today, and honestly, it was a beautiful reminder.
Okay, with that said, we're going to be closing, ending the program, so if you want to.
Okay. That's a wrap. That wraps up today's episode. We hope you found it beneficial and enjoyed tuning in. Your feedback is always welcome, whether you have questions, comments, or suggestions. Feel free to share this live or email us at any time at Al-Muminat Podcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to continue sharing our podcast with others. Our aim is to guide and enlighten our ummah. A special thanks to Sister Hanan for hosting today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to having you with us in our next episode. Until then, take care and stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.